Hello everyone, this is Jason. I want to make a video today about the United Nations Security Council vote against Israeli settlements. It went through. Yay, blah, blah, blah. This has been tried before, of course, and the United States has always vetoed it. But this time the United States just said, we're just going to let it happen. We're going to let it slide. Now, my own conspiracy theory, or my own perspective of this, is that this was simply for the Obama administration and Samantha Power particularly, because she's an opportunistic piece of shit, to when she goes back to Harvard or becomes a journalist or goes back to whatever the fuck she's doing, and she takes her Irish ass off the world stage and quits lying for corporations in the military-industrial complex and American hegemony. She did this so she can stand in front of a bunch of wide-eyed liberal students or fundraisers or whatever and say, and you know, one of the things we did under the Obama administration is we voted against. We let the settlement, we let the vote happen in the United Nations Security Council. Is one of the first things historically that America, blah, blah, blah. In the last month of the Obama administration, when it has no teeth, it wasn't backed by any laws, any sanctions, or any embargoes, anything at all. It's meaningless rhetoric. And I believe that if Hillary Clinton was going to be our incoming president, they wouldn't have done it. And let me explain. They know how hawkish Trump is. By the way, no foreign policy, regardless of who's president, is going to change about Israel, because Israel is our proxy European state, American, British, whatever state in the Middle East. And so we give it $3 billion a year, and we give it military, even more in supplemental aid. Americans and other people around the world help fund Israel as well, privately and otherwise, sometimes illegally. The settlements have 400,000 people living in one part and 200,000 living in the other. Donald, that 600,000 people roughly that live in those settlements, that's occupation. It's illegal. It's wrong. It's not okay. But Israel can do it because of American support. Let's be honest. That's why. So there's no power that can fight America. And if you mess with Israel, Israel is America's little brother. And it's because America uses Israel there's all kinds of reasons why people support Israel. But American foreign policy at the Pentagon, CIA, love Israel because it's a proxy European state, proxy American state in the Middle East. Works out beautifully. So, and they continue to fund it like that. And they continue to arm it nuclear and giving it secrets and giving it information. And even despite, when there's Jonathan Pollard or whatever, doesn't matter, never changes the relationship with Israel. So this is meaningless. And Netanyahu getting all pissed off. I even think that was partial. No, his rhetoric is always extreme. He's a fascist. But they all know Trump's coming in. Trump's a hawk on Israel. Nikki Haley will be your new UN ambassador. She will be what Samantha Power is. And when that happens, Nikki Haley, when she was South Carolina governor, tried to get legislation passed that it would be illegal to have any sanctions or embargoes or not sell products to Israel. She actually said that. She actually tried to put that into law. That's how hawkish she is. Donald Trump's new ambassador to Israel is his former, his lawyer, his bankruptcy attorney, and an extraordinary hawk on Israel. I mean, extraordinary. Take over Jerusalem. And by the way, Trump has said that. He will move the capital from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. That's his plan. And the hawk Jews love that. That's what Trump's going to do. He's this is all setting up for it going after Iran. I mean, that's really what it is, in large part, from Trump's perspective and others. So when you hear this vote, it's meaningless. It's Samantha Power smelling her own farts as she exits the door with something totally meaningless. And I listened to her speech to the UN because Samantha Power makes me fucking gag. So I like to listen to her just sit there and absolutely take the wrong position on everything because she's so isolated in her information. It's an amazing flaw. It's amazing for somebody that's supposedly an ex-journalist. But she is married to Cass Sunstein, so this is all conspiracy theorists, so who knows. So she's just sitting there and she's telling the world about and I'm not saying she hasn't spoken about Israel before in the settlements, but this is her big shine moment, because she's leaving in a little while. I mean, her run is almost over. So this is all to write another shitty book that no one will read. Have you ever read her writing? Go read excerpts from her book. It's like being punished for something you didn't do. She is awful. And Samantha Power is an awful creature. And you're about to get a straight up hawk coming to the United Nations and Nikki Haley. And that's why they did this, because they know that this won't affect the overall relationship, the American military, the CIA. This won't affect the overall relationship with Israel, not one bit. Netanyahu can bluster and people can be angry, but at the end of the day, America needs Israel, wants Israel, supports Israel. Also, today I was listening, as an aside, I was listening to a supporter of Israel, and he was telling the world that, hey, he resorted to the thing that all people that support occupation of Israel, support occupation, all occupiers, all colonizers throughout the history of time use. You know, yes, I can show you some of the really great technological advancements, and I can show you some of the great things that colonization or occupation has brought to the Palestinian people. Once you make that argument, you've lost. You've lost that argument, because that argument is specious, it's completely hypothetical, and it's just saying, you know, Hitler had some good ideas, or Mussolini, you know, he made the trains run on time. It's you know, there we can look at it. No, occupation is wrong. It's not okay what the settlers are doing. They've taken up land that isn't theirs, and they've done it in massive numbers and with a large sum of American finance and North American finance and European finance. And that's the truth of the matter. So this meaningless gesture that Samantha Power did, fuck it, who cares? And really, it doesn't affect Israel, because our support of Israel will only increase. Donald Trump has made that abundantly clear, and he's made it even more abundantly clear, not with just his rhetoric, but with the people that are in his cabinet. They and what's funny to me is the alternative right wing, the David Dukes of the world, those people, they're anti-Jew. They're anti-everything. And so they ignore this or they don't ignore it, they'll talk about it or whatever. But they're somehow, because Trump is, I don't know how they reconcile that. I don't know, and maybe it's because it's white Jewry. Maybe because it's a different form of Jews. Maybe it's the right-wing cabal of, you know, I've never been able to understand how supposed white nationalists and racists could be so gaga for Israel. And still vote for people who are because the Republican Party, Donald Trump, anybody that gets to is so hawkish with Israel, it's absurd. I mean, it really is. If you've ever listened to any rhetoric from any Republican, from any conservative, that's mainstream or otherwise, that's even ancillary to mainstream, they are hawkish for Israel. And Israel may get, they don't criticize. Go find an Israeli complaint or an Israeli critique on Matt Drudge. Or on any significant, choose your significant conservative website. They don't. They're not honest. Ben Shapiro, Jesus Christ, he's so dishonest. So they're just dishonest about Israel, and they support and they all are for colonization, and they're conservatives. And then somehow they've convinced all these supposed white nationalists, these people who wear swastikas, and not because it's a sign of eternal life or whatever the fuck it is, but because it represents Nazis, and Nazis purified Europe, and that one of the groups they purified was the Jew, and yet they still are so for all these right wing fuckers who, you know, will want to keep funding Israel and keep supporting Israel and doing whatever. It's a conundrum. I never could understand that, but. Yeah, so don't lose any sleep over this if you're an Israeli supporter, and don't think if you're a Palestinian, you know, this is the 1967 agreement, okay? This is the same thing they've been arguing since 1967. There needs to be a two-state solution. And let me show you how the Western media manipulates all of us. Quick, who's the Prime Minister of Israel and represents Israel to you? Benjamin Netanyahu. How quick did you get that, dear? Quick, who represents the Palestinians? Who is the Palestinian leader right now? Who's the leader for any group that represents the Palestinian people? Any group at all? PLO, PLA, whatever the fuck, you know, the other groups that I'm not familiar with who? You don't know any of them. You don't see one person, and it's a pretty big goddamn issue not to seemingly have anybody on the other side other than journalists telling you what's going on. It's odd. So that's something to think about. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.